Have everybody's attention, please. I think everybody that's... I want to welcome you all here tonight on a nice, cold, brisk evening. I'm excited to get to know Will. I know the pies. Yes. Now we're going to find out a little more about the man. And I'm going to cede the floor to Will. And he'll
all right. Thanks very much.
You're
Beautiful
welcome.
place. Hello, Hudson. Thank you. One of the first questions I get is, what is New York 19? What is our district? It gets changed every time we have a census, and they get gerrymandered in all these different ways, and we forget what our actual district is. It's a very big district, New York 19. It's one of the second largest in the state. It includes all of Columbia, Rensselaer excluding Troy, Dutchess County excluding the Poughkeepsie metro area, and then lots of counties west of the Hudson River: Greene, Schoharie, Otsego out to Cooperstown, Sullivan, Delaware, and all of Ulster County, including urban Kingston. And two little gerrymandered pieces, one in western Montgomery farm country and one single town in the county of Broome. So it's a big district. And for those of you who are not politicos or don't follow politics, you might not understand the significance of our district. The vast majority of the 435 congressional districts don't really have races every year. They're either so gerrymandered to be safe for one party or so safe for an incumbent that there isn't a real race. And we here have a real race. The eyes of the nation are in New York 19. We have roughly equal numbers of Democrats and Republicans and a huge middle that's up for grabs of people that have no party affiliation. And my belief is that if we're going to win this seat back, this open seat since Chris Gibson is retired, we cannot energize progressives alone. We cannot get the numbers there if we energize progressives and Democrats alone. We absolutely must endorse a candidate that can go and reach out to that great middle that's up for grabs. I've spent my entire life working on issues relative to this district. I've been a town councilman for 2 terms now. I just won my 2nd term in deep, deep Republican territory in Livingston. I've done my graduate work on the Hudson River, worked on my local land trust here. I've been a reporter covering environmental issues, issues of architecture and art, and for AARP as a reporter since 2004 covering senior issues. I'm a 4th-generation farmer. That's pretty rare. I went through the public high school system right here in my hometown of Hudson. I was born here. Valedictorian of Hudson High School. Cindy Hall was one of the few people that tried to teach me how to sing. God bless her. I cannot carry a tune in a bushel basket, but she tried. I made good. I did well. I got scholarships into Princeton and then later went on to Brown for graduate school. And that story is rare enough. But what's really rare is that someone with this experience came back to this area. And I came back here because I believe in it and I love it. And I have seen, particularly exemplified by Hudson, where we have gone as a community since the 1980s. The other night I was invited to the Sullivan County Democratic Women's Club, all the way out on the other end of the district, and I was impressed by how similar their stories are to ours. Light industry is gone, industry is gone, the old mainline jobs, the analogs of going to work for IBM when you're 18 and they take care of you your whole life with a defined pension and a watch when you retire, those days are over. But they have some similarities. They have beautiful landscapes. They have a tourism economy of $290 million a year. It's their biggest growth industry. And I think the individual that we send to Congress next has to understand this vision for our region. As gerrymandered as we are, this big, giant district that was coalesced to form votes that favor Republicans, as big as it actually does form a cohesive idea. And if we in this area talk about jobs and education and opportunity, we have to understand our context in the region. Our job here is to understand how we can utilize the market opportunities of New York City, those capital inflows, without changing our working landscapes and our rural heart here and our historic towns and villages. And I think we can do it. I absolutely think that this area can be a model for showing the rest of the country and how you have a relationship between a rural and an urban city that doesn't parasitize one another, but fosters each other's exchange of respect and ideas and money. We need a farm bill that finally does something for the Northeast. We need a farm bill that subsidizes fruits and vegetables, that grows the kinds of food that actually make us healthy, something more than grain subsidies that do nothing more than create ethanol and high fructose corn syrup. We live an hour or two away from the biggest domestic food market in the country. This is a huge opportunity. It's madness to be sending in produce from California that's running out of water when we could grow it here. We can't do that without investment in distribution and marketing facilities to get it to the city. We have the land, we have the water, and we actually have kids now and young people that come out of Brooklyn and want to be farmers. But they need some help getting onto the land, and the Farm Bill needs to do that. We're a graying district. It's one of the challenges here. In New York 19, we're 10 years older than the national median average. So we have to get creative about moving more Medicare and federal dollars towards individuals that want to age in their own homes and communities. Since 2004, I've worked for ARP, and we found that people want to live in their own homes and communities, but it's actually cheaper in the long run to give them a little extra help through a home health aid, or home-delivered meals, or innovative programs like the Ride and Share program, where maybe an individual is a little too shaky to drive, but they can perfectly take care of themselves. They donate their car. The car becomes a kind of debit account that they can draw down from, and a volunteer will drive them to the grocery store or to a doctor's visit. People want to live in their own homes and communities. Let's do it. We can be a model here for that. I could not have moved back to my farm and done my work in writing and consulting if I didn't have high-speed internet. You know, the idea of a weekender is becoming a misnomer because I know more and more people who are from the city and they love to spend 4 or 5 days a week up here and then go down to the city just for a business meeting or a business lunch. But they can't do that if they can't get online. This is the greatest utility challenge of the 21st century, and we hear politicians talk about it all the time, but we keep talking about it because we are failing at it. We are failing at the greatest utility challenge of the 21st century. When I look at FDR's writings from the 1930s, when he talks about the rural electrification program, you can take FDR's talking points right out of the 1930s and bring them to our age, and they all apply almost perfectly. All of the same arguments apply. Private industry can't do this by itself. There isn't the density of rural customers to support the lines to go to them. There isn't the technology there. But you know what happened at the end of the 1930s? They strung an electricity line to every darn dairy farmer in this district. Everybody got the utility they needed. It's about the right priorities, and it's about the right investments. Some of you may know that I've been a community leader fighting these power line projects as part of the New York Energy Highway Program. We haven't lost that fight yet, no matter what happens. But this project is asking us to finance $1.3 billion with a B for a transmission project that no one needs and cannot be shown to deliver any value to New York State's ratepayers. $1.3 billion for this industry giveaway to the utilities. Think about this in context, how hard Scott Murphy had to work in 2010 to scrape the bottom of the pork barrel to get $3.5 million for broadband. I mean, our priorities are mismatched. We need to use our dollars, our ratepayer dollars, towards the best investments. We need to re-energize our community college system. I've been an adjunct professor at Columbia Green since 2011. I've talked to the president there, Jim Campion, and they've tracked the incoming potential classes down to kindergarten. They have a problem here. Their business model has a problem because the number of students as measured in terms of our population are decreasing, and yet we have these bricks and mortars, wonderful facilities throughout this district, throughout Sullivan County, throughout Otsego, our wonderful community colleges that are not only going to have to exist in the future for providing an affordable head start to education, but could be laboratories for apprenticeship programs for adults that in the modern economy are going to have to change careers multiple times. There are awesome opportunities in culinary, in tourism, agriculture, the home health aids that I talked about for our seniors, applied medicine. We need to start thinking about our community colleges in a different way to train adults and to become partners with private enterprise in our communities. And finally, we're only good as the energy that powers our homes and communities. We have to start investing more in solar and green energy, not only because it's good for the planet, but because it puts money back in people's pockets. We are at the price points now where individuals are putting solar in their houses because it simply makes dollars and cents. We have Republican lawmakers in Congress and as well in our state who are interested in solar because it's simply good business. We're here. Okay? We have to start ending the oil and gas subsidies for corporations that don't need them. They are leading our country in the wrong direction. When Bernie Sanders was criticized for saying that the greatest challenge facing humanity is climate change, he was right. You show me a foreign policy conflict, you show me a global issue, I can trace it back to a resource issue. The world is changing, we have to do something about it and take it seriously. I have spent my entire political career working among Republicans. The next person that we send to Congress, it may very well face a Republican majority. And we need to send an individual there that has the interest, the passion, the collaborative approach to start working towards the incremental change that we can, even if we don't get that majority. Much has been said about my candidacy, that I have only won a few hundred votes in Livingston, but I'll tell you what, when Kirsten Gillibrand first ran for Congress, she had no political wins under her belt. And she was an awesome congresswoman because she had great character, understood the issues, and made a commitment to the district that she lived in. Chris Gibson, who was a popular congressman, also had never won a vote before he first started to run for Congress, but he had a collaborative approach and he played offense. We need a Democrat that can go out there into the sportsman halls, into Farm Bureau meetings, into diners, into the state fairs, and connect to people. Money is important. We're off to a good start. We believe we're on track to get to $250,000 by the end of the month. But money is nothing if we do not have a candidate that can connect to voters. We have to get out there and convince people that, yes, we have a core progressive message that we're not going to sell out, but we have somebody that's connected to the needs and interests of this community. And that constituency work, that connection to the community, is something that a congressman can do no matter who is in control of the Congress. We have to think about this as the opportunities that this individual can make because they understand this community. A congressman has a taxpayer-financed staff of 18 people ready to go for work for upstate New York. I would love to be that person. Let's put a farmer in Congress. I need your help. We can do this. We'll have some time for some Q&A. There's a few introductions. I want to first introduce my husband, Amir. Amir and I got married in May, and I'm doing my best to make a farmer out of him. We're hoping to raise a 5th generation over at Green Acres Farm. The other is the fierce, ferocious, yet gentle Pam Klein. Does not take going to give a little pitch about money.
Will makes my job a lot easier because once you listen to him, you're a little more willing to listen to me. And I'm all about the fundraising. And we know that Will's electable. Washington knows that Will's electable. But what they don't know is, can he fundraise? So they've given us a goal of $300,000 to raise by the end of January. Since January 1st, we've raised $175,000. The single personal pledge maximum is $5,400. So if there's anyone here willing to do that tonight, Will's mother will personally bake you an apple pie. Otherwise, any and all contributions are really gratefully, gratefully received. We have these pledge cards, which I'm going to pass out. And we're not doing contributions tonight, we're simply doing pledges. So I'll pass them out, and if you will dig deep into your pockets, I'll collect them before you leave. And now I'd like to introduce the very famous supervisor of the 3rd Ward, Don Moore.
I'm not sure why I was asked to speak, except what occurs to me is that I'm just one of you. I'm really excited about Will's candidacy. I've put a fair amount of time in over the last couple of weeks working to try to get events like this organized, and you can do exactly the same thing. If we could get this fellow in Congress, you have just witnessed exactly the advantage we will have having him there. I'm really looking forward to it. If there is a contest for the nomination, let there be a contest. I think that we would stand well to have Will, get through even a primary. And I look forward to supporting you. It's really been an honor.
Thanks, Dan. I could take some questions if people had questions or issues that are burning in your heart. Yes, sir.
Veterans' rights. Right now, there's such a tug of war over our veterans' rights.
I'm thinking about it.
I don't know if this is actually a question or a statement, but the one thing that would cure every single ill that the VA has right now is taking the Veterans Administration and the veterans benefits and putting it back into the military budget spending where it should be. What can you do about that? Because right now it's in a discretionary funding bill that the Republicans are fighting tooth and nail to take away from myself and my fellow veterans. If that can go into the military budget, there'll never be another question. We'll have the best health care in the world, and I think my fellow veterans deserve that.
Okay. That's not a subject that I've studied very much at this point of the campaign, but I'm happy to hear about it. This is about me listening as well as talking, so please share any other ideas you have about that, and we'll look into it. Thank you.
I have a quick question. So I love all your ideas, and it's fantastic to hear you speak. But as you say, we have a Republican Congress, and that's the question I always have. It's like, how are you going to get there? How are you going to get all these things done? They're all great ideas, but how do you get through a Republican, extreme right-wing Congress that doesn't want to do any of that stuff?
That's true. I think we live in one of the most partisan Congresses we've had since the Reconstruction of the Civil War. It's that bad. But, you work for the incremental change that you can. So climate change. I would love to see a global carbon tax. I have about 0% confidence that in the next Congress we will get a global carbon tax through a Republican majority. But what can we do? We already know that, for example, there's a bill sponsored by Paul Tonko, working with GE to get more efficient turbines that use less energy to lower our carbon budgets that way, incremental change. We know that there are allies in the state of Arizona who are Republicans that have supported the investment solar tax credit and expanding that to things like geothermal, which reduce our carbon budget. And I think you just have to be the kind of individual that can look for the low-hanging fruit and the incremental change. Often change happens that way. There are these great watershed moments that we have, like the Civil War, like the Civil Rights Movement, where there are big, broad, sweeping changes overnight. But when I, as a student of American history, look at change, I often see it as the sum total of small incremental pieces of change. And those absolutely can be done even in this partisan Congress. But you have to be an individual that can build relationships. When I had an internship in the US Senate, I had nothing to do with politics. It was about an art restoration program. I had gotten a fellowship as part of the Historical Society of the US Capitol to photograph and write about these beautiful natural images in the Senate chambers called the Brumidi corridors. These are beautiful lime wash frescoes from the 1860s and 70s. And the great thing about this job is I had a 24-hour access pass to the US Capitol. And this was right in the time, 2002-3, where we were debating the Iraq War. And here I am, this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed kid from Hudson, New York, and I'm going to watch the great debates about the war. When I got into the Senate gallery chambers, I noticed that there was absolutely nobody there. There was no debate. We have this fallacy that the left and right are yelling at each other all the time in DC. In fact, the exact opposite is the case. They're not talking to one another at all. They get in front of a camera, make a few sound bites, and that's it. So, to get to the heart of the structural question you have, so we have to start talking to one another. I mean, you have to start understanding that even Republicans are people at some point, and there's got to be some common ground that we can work with. But you have to outreach, you have to talk to one another, and there's no shortcut. We live in the great technological age, so they say, but it is still a face-to-face world. I really believe that. Not easy, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but investing in a congressman is a long-term investment. I'm 38, you build relationships over a career. So I think we can get there.
Thank you.